Why don't we feel for each other?
A very big welcome to the June edition of Digging Up Positivity. It was a big month and a lot of good was done, and I hope that you enjoyed the countless of festivities around Pride Month. Just remember, you be you and love is love. We saw how many of our friends banded together to help others, both big and small, and in the spirit of making this world a better place, this month's guest is Star Raccoon, and he has a very special wholesome story to share about his job in one of those big mouse theme parks in Florida, USA. And because I'm always streaming on Monday, I am giving away a license for Clip Studio Paint, the software that I use to draw. So if you use a Mac or Windows or anything that can simulate one of those, you can run this. So stay tuned until the outro to learn more. And also together who has won one of these lovely Tabo t-shirts from artworktee.com. But for now, the charities. First, we start with our furry friends in Ohio, USA, where they raised $28,000 for the Pipsqueakery, a small, no pun intended, non-profit animal rescue and sanctuary for such as rodents and rabbits. They educate the public on their care and find forever homes and rescue placements for healthy and adoptable animals. In the United Kingdom we had Confuzzled, one of Europe's biggest furry conventions, and they raised well over £25,000, a grand total of $31,110 for the Bumblebee Conservation Trust for the continuing effort to save the UK bumblebees, and it's because, well, they are an essential part of nature. This trust is a science-led organization, and they base their actions and stances on the latest scientific research. Making a big difference, we have the biggest little Furcon, who raised $20,011.05 for the Safe Haven Wildlife Sanctuary, aiding them in their mission to provide lifelong care for the rehabilitation for animals unable to be placed back into the wild. We also had the critters at StratosFur raising money for Give Us Paws. This Houston-based organization is providing free service dog training for veterans and affordable training for civilians suffering from PTSD and other disabilities. At the time of recording, the total amount raised is not yet known. However, when it is known, I will give a shout out to this convention, and of course we will cover it in the end of year Furry Charity Index. But besides all these wonderful conventions in the real world, quite some of them are having a virtual element, but Furality Aqua was fully in the virtual world. And what a world it was! Furality Aqua once again was a beauty to behold. During the closing ceremonies we found out that 15,079 critters registered, and they raised a whopping $22,638 for Save a Fox, proving once more that virtual conventions are more than capable to make their mark. But besides big conventions, we also have wonderful initiatives like this charity auction of this really awesome looking plush from the Jaguar from Disney Pixar's Encanto. They managed to raise $330 for the Mercy Corps, providing much needed humanitarian aid in Ukraine. Another wonderful initiative is done by Kinora, a well-known fursuiter in Germany, especially known for his antics like skydiving, or actually I once went bungee jumping with him. He really does go to unknown heights. But his latest project is Let's Change the World Together. He and his friends have started a Patreon and Ko-Fi to raise money together for various charities. The first one is the Tierschutzzentrum in Duisburg. They managed to raise $526.69. Together, that is €500 if give or take. I'm sure to keep an eye on this lovely group. In fact, because of this, Kinora will be our next guest next month, so stay tuned. But also closer to home, people need help. Many came together for the lovely otter Eden and managed to raise $500 so far to help him move away from his dreadful home situation. The campaign is still going on and things are going to go in the right direction. However, the otter is not there yet and you can help. Be sure to check out his link in the description below. We are at the half-year mark of this year, and the charities that this channel has covered already reached well over $550,000. I am so excited and proud to say that with these numbers, we are most likely to beat last year's grand total of $726,000, and we already passed 2020's grand total, that is the entire year, of $523,000. But will we end up at the pre-pandemic level of 2019, where we raised well over 1 million? I will keep my fingers crossed, and no matter the outcome, let it be known that many critters around the world are making the world a better place, and oh, my love and respect goes out to you all. Speaking of awesome people, the Good Furry Awards results are in this year. So I talk Dole for producing the Dole Moment blog about various furry events, making excellent tutorials and demos, and of course his effort in protecting the libraries in the Mississippi that house thousands of LGBTQ+ books, resulting in a GoFundMe that raised well over $100,000, an award well earned indeed. Animations with anthropomorphic animals are nothing new, but every now and then a movie is released that really makes some waves, pulling people into a lifetime of love for these animals with human characteristics, and without them, the furry fandom would not be what it is today. We are talking about movies like Robin Hood, The Lion King, and in 2016, Zootopia. Till this very day, this movie has a very avid fan base, and people went into a frenzy when in 2020 a series of shorts was announced as Zootopia Plus, and now the release date is known, November 9th this year. To be released on Apple Plus in August is the animation movie Luck. This animation is about Sam Greenfield, or the unluckiest person in the world, and she discovers the land of luck. I was captivated by the trailer, where I ended up staring at the really nice fluid animation of the black cat. I mean, just look at it! His name is Bob, and he's voiced by Simon Pegg. But there is also the CEO of Luck, a very gorgeous looking dragoness voiced by Jane Fonda. And after some digging, I found out that the script is written by Peggy Holmes, who also worked on Cars and Cars 3. So you know I'm excited. I mean, those are the good Cars movies, haha.
How are you doing, Mr. Meerkat?
Doing quite fine. Sitting in a very warm attic, and I got the impression it's quite warm at your place as well.
Yeah, it got up where it's like 103 today here, Fahrenheit, which I believe is probably 40 Celsius for everyone that is not in America.
You are forgiven for not being dressed up fully.
Full suit is kind of, I got to be refrigerated very well to do that. That will be a nighttime thing here.
Mm-hmm. This month, our special guest is Star Raccoon. Tell us something about yourself.
Well, my name's Star. I turned 41 in just a couple of days. I'm originally from Northeast Texas, but I claim Louisiana as my home. That was my home for 30 years, so I consider myself part of what we like to call here the Cajun culture. So a lot of liveliness, a lot of food, a lot of music, joie de vivre, as we say. But currently I live in Orlando, Florida.
We first met through a YouTube channel where a lot of our colleagues are talking about as well, and you had wonderful, wholesome stories about your work at a certain big house of the mouse.
Well, if you live in Orlando, like you said, I work at a very my boss is a very mousy fellow. He loves his cheese, and I work in the theme park division for that company. So right now I am a bus trainer, so that means I am part of the license and acquisitions team to get new hires proper licenses to operate city transit buses here for the company. I'm a part of that team, but when I started at the company way back in the early part of the decade, I worked in entertainment, and I was actually the bodyguard for several of our wonderful characters here at the theme park.
Oh, that must sound like a dream job for many furries out there, to be the guard of, for example, a certain Raccoon or Chip and Dale. That would be awesome.
You name them, there were very few that I did not work with. And that was just due to the limitations of their availability, as well as who or where I was that day. So there were days that I worked at Hollywood Studios, and there were days that I worked at Epcot, and there were days that I worked at the Magic Kingdom. And so we were kind of always limited to who would visit those places.
I remember you telling a couple of really wholesome stories about some memorable events that happened to you that triggered my question to have you on the show. Could you name some lovely examples?
Yes, there are a few that stick out in my mind. One of the shorter ones, I don't think I shared this one with the crowd. I worked one day with Lightning McQueen. And for those of you that don't know who Lightning McQueen is, look at Disney Pixar Cars. He's the hero. He's the city car that goes to the little town and learns that life is not always about winning. And there was one day, so as the attendant, as we're called, your job is to help the guests, greet the character, and then help them with the process, because sometimes it can get awkward. You know, Mickey is saving his voice for the show, as we like to say. That's why he doesn't talk that much. And there was one day, I remember, little children love Lightning. Little kids love Lightning McQueen. Part of my job every morning, if I was the opener, was to actually wax the car. So one of the things I learned from the PhotoPass people was keep the wax rag in your back pocket, because eventually there'll be a child that just loses their mind and wants to just have that moment with Lightning. Like, we all want our special moments with a character, you know? Mm-hmm. And so if I saw a little child that was getting emotional or getting worked up, I would hand them my wax rag and I'd say, hey, you need to go polish his fender real quick. He's got a race later today. I need you to go make him look good. And that was the key for the PhotoPass photographer to get the camera ready to get in very tight shots to get the child's reflection on the fender. And you could see little kids like just getting this close to the fender and just going, and like, did I do a good job? I'm like, and if you knew where you were in Lightning's program, he would honk his horn. I'd say he says that you did good, little dude. He's very happy. And I had a dad look at me one day and he goes, you teach him how to do that in my truck? I'm like, if you put giant eyeballs on the front of your truck, sir, and put a big number 95 on the side, I'm sure he'll do it just fine. That was part of it. That was helping guests realize those magical moments with our wonderful cavalcade of characters. There was one day, I know the story you want to hear, and I'll tell this one now. Understand, if I talk a certain way, it's because I have to. Mm-hmm. For me, for many of our guests, they believe that there's more than one Mickey Mouse running around. Unfortunately, that's not true. There's one Mickey Mouse.
Mm-hmm.
There's one Minnie Mouse. There's one Donald. There's one Daisy. There's one Dale. There's two Chips.
Okay.
Chip the Cup. Yep, Chip the Cup and Chip the Chipmunk.
Ah, yes, of course.
You just found the Disney joke. So there was, I really love Minnie Mouse. Minnie Mouse is one of my favorite characters, as you can see here.
Mm-hmm.
She's one of my favorite characters, so I always enjoyed working with Minnie extraordinarily to heart. And Minnie has a lot of special friends, and so we'll keep that in mind. There was one little girl that came in that had a t-shirt with her. I'll give you the short version. She had a t-shirt with her. They wanted Minnie to sign for them. And Minnie holds up the shirt and she starts reading it. So to read it, to show she's reading, she puts her finger to each letter. And I hear Minnie gasp. And I'm not used to that. So now I read the shirt and it says, "Congratulations, Jessica. 5 years or 7 years, something like that, brain tumor free." And I can see Minnie's hand is shaking. It's very pronounced with her glove.
Mm-hmm.
And she points at the child, and then she points at the shirt, and she goes like that. Said, "Minnie wants to know if she's okay." And the mom goes, "Oh, yeah, no, she's fine. The week she was born, they had to do surgery on the back of her head to remove a cluster of cancer cells about the size of a normal person's thumb from the back of her daughter's brain."
Mm-hmm.
And she's been fighting cancer ever since, and now she's completely clear. She's declared out of remission and that she's fine, but she's going to keep getting tested. And I can see Minnie just shaking, and she hugs the child almost violently. And this is very odd behavior for Minnie.
Mm-hmm.
And they take the photo. She hugs the mom, hugs the child, and boom, Minnie's gone. Starts running for her exit. And I'm standing there. I'm like, "I'll be right back. She probably went to go check on her muffins. Let me see how she's doing." And I go in back, and Minnie is full boo-hoo crying. Like, she's got her hands like this, and she's weeping. Mm-hmm. And I walk in back, and I go, "What's going on?" And Minnie tells me that she has a very special friend that knows exactly what that family's gone through, because she was one of the first people to undergo that surgery. And she's terrified how the family's doing, and she tells me a lot of stuff, and then she tells me and says, "But you can't tell them any of that. We don't want to upset the guests." And I go, you let me worry about that. They're in line for Donald. Let me go see them."
Mm-hmm.
And I go see the family. Minnie is extraordinarily experienced in her lifetime of being with our guests, so I can leave her alone for a minute. And I go up to the guest, and the mom goes, "Is she okay? We didn't mean to upset her." I said, "Oh, she's fine. Don't worry about that. She just wanted me to tell you that she has a very special friend that knows what you've gone through, because she was one of the first people to do it, and that if she had died during that procedure, they probably wouldn't have done that surgery after that. But she wanted me to tell you that she knows what you've gone through, and that she prays for you." And the mom goes, "Really? Where is she? We'd love to meet her. Where is she?" And I'm like, about that, I can't point because pointing is rude.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of Minnie's special friends, and she looks right at the mouse and she goes, "Oh no." And I'm like, you got it. And I didn't give anything away. We're good. And I walk away from that instance and I go, we're always taught how to put a bow on the situation, how to make that moment magical, not only for our guests, but for our characters. It's a two-way street with us. We get as much from those interactions as the guests do. Mm-hmm. That's why we do what we do. And so I look at my boss and I said, "Give me the company checkbook. I'm going shopping." And I tell them very briefly what's going on. And they hand me the corporate checkbook and they go get the biggest Minnie doll you can find. So I run my butt across Epcot run into Mouse Gear, the souvenir store, grab a mini doll, sign the book, throw it at the attendant, run back to character spot where we were, and in that moment you could meet Mickey, Pluto, Minnie, Donald, Goofy. I have 4 fingers, there were 5 characters. So I know they're in line for Donald or Goofy at this point. And I run in, hand the stuff off to my boss, run back to the mouse. Minnie does this. She goes,
Yeah.
She said, where have you been for the last 10 minutes? And I said, don't worry about that, making magic in your name. Don't know where it is. And then about 5 minutes later, there were these huge windows across from each character by about 10 to 15 feet, maybe 20 feet. And I hear knocking, and I see this mother, and she's crying her eyes out. The little girl has this brand new Minnie Mouse doll. She's just bashing its head against the window, trying to get Minnie's attention. Just like a woodpecker, just brrr.
Yeah.
And I look at Minnie, and I wait for her to finish with her guess, and I said, Minnie, you have some very special friends at the window that want to say goodbye to you. And she gives me this, picks up her dress and walks on over. Then she sees who it is. And she remembers them, and she goes, I knows them. I know them. So if you ever have a character say, I knows you, that's usually a sign that they know you somehow.
Yeah.
And she says, she points at the doll, and she goes, how? I said, don't worry about that. You don't know about that yet. And I can still see her. She goes up to the window, and she draws a big heart like that. On the window, it says, I love you, and then says it to the daughter a few times. And I can hear her start revving up to crying. And the little girls, they do like this to the window, and the mom does like this, and she's crying her eyes out. And I'm getting worked up a little bit. And Minnie hikes that skirt up and runs off stage. And I go in back, and I look at my guests, and I go, be right back. She probably went to go check on her muffins again, be right. I go in back, and she's full boohoo crying now, like actively like this, like, and I walk in back, and I go, what's wrong? Are you okay? She goes, why'd you tell them? I said, that little kid deserves to know. That little kid, no matter how old she is, at some point, the mom deserved to know. I believe in fate. I believe in destiny. This was destined to happen. How often do you meet someone with that special kind of medical condition?
It's
and
one
she
in
says,
a million.
Yeah, I know. Right? I told her she needed to go play the lottery that day. And I can still hear her crying and looking at me and saying, but I told you not to tell her. I said, that little kid deserves to know why she's alive. That little kid deserves to know. And she goes, and the doll? And I said, look, she's forever tied to you, man. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sure if Walt was here, if Walt were alive right now, he would be pleased as punch at what we just did for your legacy, for Minnie Mouse's legacy. And she hugs me real hard, and I pat her on the back, and I said, look, I hate to do this. We're still in production. We still got a show going on. We'll talk about this later. But I need the stripe, I need the polka dots, and I need the bow on your head, and I need them fresh. We've got 10 minutes. Just get through it, then we'll commiserate and back during break. And we go back out on stage. The secret sign is given that Minnie Mouse has to take a powder. And my boss walks up, what we call a captain. They go, manager wants to see you and Minnie backstage now. I go, okay. And I don't think I'm in trouble, but I'm like, you never know which way it's going to go sometimes. Depends upon who's the boss that day. And they bring us in. They say, why did you do what you did? We explained, and we were both given special commendation for magical thinking and for putting the guest first. which was nice, but we didn't do that for that reason. We did that because that little girl deserves to know why she's alive today, who's responsible for that, and even with all of the magical connotations that go along with it. That's one of a million that I have.
But it is it's nice to hear that it goes appreciated also by your current camp. I am touched by this lovely story. Thank you very much for sharing this.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for allowing me to tell that.
How did you get into the furry fandom?
How I got into furry? Well, I did it the old school way. I Googled. It's back before it was even Google. It was web crawler. I web crawlered, looking for artwork. I forget what it was. I think it was like pictures of like Darkwing Duck or Tailspin or something like that. And I found this website that had unknown characters on it. I believe it was VCL, Vixen Controlled Libraries.
Yeah, that was my first one as well. We're roughly the same age.
Fur Nation, like way back when. And I was like, well, I've never seen these characters before. These are kind of cool. And I was an avid fan of anything with Raccoon. So the television show The Raccoons from Canada, the Care Bears from whom I get my my beautiful coloring from. I was that original saying, I want to be Brightheart when I grow up. And a few other cartoons here and there. And I always thought it'd be fun to grow up to be a cartoon character. Then I found out that that's something you can actually be a hobbyist in, much like you can be a train conductor, or you can be the captain of a starship, or you can go to Comic-Con and enjoy dressing up. I learned at an early age, I'd say about 15 or 14, way back when in the mid-90s, I too could grow up to be a cartoon character if you had enough funding. One of the things that I feel obligated to do is whenever I go to a convention, I always donate something of value to the convention for their charity auction, so that I can see. I like being part of that. It makes me feel good knowing that there's someone out there with something really rare or hard to come by, or something nice, and that someone else benefited off of that, or not someone else, but a charity. Like here at Megaplex, I'll hawk their convention for a second. Megaplex is my local convention. Every year they donate to the Orlando Care Foundation, which is for animals that are unreleasable. So like, remember when you were a child, or maybe they did this where you were? I know they did it where I was. They would bring in like the animal zoologist for the day, and they'd have like a hawk. And the hawk would hang out on this dude's arm on the glove, and they would take the hood off, and the hawk would just be there, just hawking it up. And the hawk is unreleasable because the hawk doesn't know how to be a proper hawk.
Yeah,
that's what they deal with. So they deal with people who had like raccoons as pets and are unreleasable. People who have animals that are unwanted by zoos. And so that's what Orlando Care Foundation does. So every year I try to make a nice merchandise donation to the convention, as well as whatever I can afford out of my own pocket towards the final tally for Orlando Care Foundation. I appreciate what they do.
Awesome. It's really awesome to talk to you and seeing that all the wholesome things you've done for the furry fandom and beyond. Is there a favorite moment from you within the fandom?
Actually, yes, there is, because I was thinking about this. A favorite moment, you can always say, well, my favorite moment is when I got my fursuit, or my favorite moment is the first time I walked into a convention. But I'm going to go back. It was one that I got to observe, and that was at AnthrOhio 2017. I want to say it was AnthrOhio 2017. I was with my friend Willow Fox, and we're out in Pittsburgh, and we're walking somewhere. I forget where we were going. We were looking at this line of cars outside. There was a car that she took particular interest in. She's somewhat of a motorhead and a mechanic. And this little kid comes up and just gently tugs on her vest. She wears a vest over her costume, over her fursuit. And Willow took that time, instead of, looking down and being like, oh, it's a kid, she recognized the moment, the validity of this little kid. And the little kid was probably about 6 or 7. And she just holds up her little hand and says, "High five, Mr. Fox." And Willow, obliged. She gives her a high 4, and she gets to the child's level and tussles her hair a little bit and plays, high fives and starts doing the catch my paw. And it slowly attracted the rest of the family. And this mom comes up and says, "That's really sweet of her to do that." And I just nodded my head and I'm like, yeah. And you could see the impact it was having on those children, that probably they'd been walking around for a while. Why else would they be downtown Pittsburgh in front of the Westin talking to furries in the first place, if they weren't specifically there for that reason? And that Willow seemed to be the one giving them a lot of her time and a lot of our time together. And I took out my camera and I was taking photos, and that was a moment that really reminded me what this is all about, that this is the moment that I wanted as a child. If I saw a giant costume character, I wanted those moments. And so it was nice to see a friend of mine also have that same respect and that same mindset, that this is about us paying it forward, that this is about us living those memories through ourselves now to potential comrades in the future. I'll put it that way.
And that is a perfect closing statement for a wonderful interview. Thank you very much, and stay awesome.
Thank you for doing this, by the way. We appreciate, especially with all the negativity in the world, we appreciate what you do to continue to remind us, hey, it's not all that bad.
Thank you very much for sticking with us till the very end. Before I'm going to tell you about the software that I'm using for my streaming, last time I was going to give away one of my awesome t-shirts from my Artwork Tee store. You know, the one with the beautiful art from Silver Fox. Well, I filled in all the names who responded that they wanted to have a t-shirt, and I run a random number generator on it. And the winner is, drumroll please, Duke Monster Designs. Thank you very much, and please use the form below in the description so I can start verifying you and get your details. You have until the release of the very next episode of Digging Up Positivity to respond. Now, for this month's giveaway, or raffle if you will. It has been a while back since I started to stream every Monday. A wholesome group of people were making it such an awesome experience, but the software is quite a delight to work with. It's called Clip Studio Paint, and to share the love, I am going to give away one license key. All you have to do is to subscribe to this channel and respond to this video that you would like to have a key. And I will draw a winner from those the very next episode. Good luck, may the best one win. As for next week, I will be celebrating World Meerkat Day, and I hope that you all have a wonderful month ahead filled with these awesome moments. And speaking of awesome, I would like to thank the following critters for supporting my channels through Patreon and Subscribestar: Cosmic with a K, Els Dekkers, Falconeo, Hanzana, Ishnula, Hitako, Manik, Tantru McNally, Taros, and of course Score Chaser. The next Digging Up Positivity will be on the 25th of July, and our guest will be Kinora, where I will be asking him about Let's Change the World Together and more. But I am on Twitch as well. On every Monday I will be drawing stuff with wonderful chatty folks and vibing on some relaxing music. Hope to see you there. Stay awesome. And of course, all the hugs. But Furality Aqua was virtually, completely in the virtual world. What the virtual, virtual things like virtual in the virtual world is virtual. How virtual can virtual.